gotta take the hits and bruises as you walk amongst the jungle. The breakdown, they gon' break you as long as you never stumble. My people, welcome to another episode of Conversation with Los. I know it's been a minute. I've been actually trying to grow my presence over on TikTok. But today I have a really special guest. I have none other than my man, Uncle Rock. Uncle Rock,
Hey,
what's up,
everybody.
brother? How you doing,
brother?
Doing good, man. Appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast and have a conversation with me. This is literally the first time me and you actually see each other and talk. These are my favorite types of interviews because I feel like it'll be genuine, questions and stuff that I really want to know about you. So I appreciate you, brother. Well, before we start, Uncle Rock, can I get your iconic introduction that you do on your TikTok?
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Hope you're having a fan-damn-tastic Wednesday. Uncle Rock here.
Hey, there you go. Man, it's dope to see that live. I appreciate you, brother.
Not a problem, brother. Glad you're having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we've been messaging back and forth on TikTok, so having you on is definitely a pleasure, man. I appreciate you. So,
No,
Uncle Rock.
hey, I'm glad you reached out. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. So, Uncle Rock,
Yes, sir.
how do you get such name, Uncle Rock? Where does that come from?
Well, my real name actually is Rock. That is my real name. My
Okay.
actual name is Rocky, but only my mother ever called me that. So my real name is Rock. And one of my followers at one time just kind of gave me the nickname of Uncle Rock, and it just kind of stuck. So it just kind of went from there. So that's when I started the Rock thing. Well, like I said, I didn't really start it. One of the followers started it. And when I would do my lives or make a video post, that person would always comment Uncle Rock, and then other followers started calling me Uncle Rock, and it just kind of went from there.
Nice, that's dope, bro. How long have you been on TikTok for?
August was my third year. 3 years.
Wow, okay, hell yeah, that's dope, bro. Yeah. And where are you located? What state?
I am in Central Texas. I am in a town called Temple, right at about an hour north of Austin. So I'm just about dead center of the state.
Nice. Oh, okay. Hell yeah. Have you always lived in Texas?
No, I'm originally from Ohio. Okay. I joined the military right out of high school. So I left when I graduated in 81. I graduated in May. I left for the military in September. I spent 17 of my 22 years there in Central Texas. So when I retired, we kicked around going back to Ohio. We kicked around May, Oregon, all different kinds of places. And we just ended up staying there in Central Texas. And I retired in 03, and that's just where I've been ever since.
What branch did you join?
Well, I actually joined when I was 19. I joined when I was 18, a senior in high school. But I left after I graduated, and I joined the Army. I joined in 81, and I retired in 03.
Wow, that's a lot of years, bro.
But I loved it, dude. I would do it all in a heartbeat again. I would, even with having 2 deployments and everything else, I would do it all over again. I love the military.
Yeah, and what made you want to join the military? Do you have family members that are in the military?
I kind of felt like it was my patriotic duty. My dad had served in World War II. Both my brothers served in Vietnam. So I kind of grew up with that military mentality. I just kind of felt like it was something I needed to do. Both my dad and both my brothers served. So I just kind of did it.
That's cool, man. Were you able to go on some tours?
Well, I did Desert Storm. I did Iraqi Freedom in 3. Well, we went over there in 02, but Iraqi Freedom really didn't kick off till 03. I did 4 years in Hawaii. I did a year in Korea. But other than that, it was Fort Hood the whole time, which they call Cavazos now.
Okay. And out of all of these tours that you went and you did, do you feel like when you came back, some of those tours affected you?
Well, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2015.
Oh wow! Okay.
And what it was I was diagnosed in June of 2015. One of my brothers had passed away in February of 15, and I was his executor, so I had to go through all of his military paperwork and everything else. And what it was as I was going through his military stuff is when I had found out that he had been wounded twice. One of the times he had been shot in the face, and it just kind of started affecting me, and it started getting to me. So I started going to see a doctor and stuff, and we just kind of realized that it had brought back stuff that I had gone through, and it just kind of brought up some PTSD issues at that point. You know, survivor's guilt, because I was part of a field artillery unit, but we're also a battalion aid station. So it started getting to the point to where even though you're a field artillery unit and I was not any kind of a medic, when you saw an ambulance pull in, everybody stopped what they were doing and suddenly became kind of like a medic's aid. You know, you jumped in, you grabbed gurneys, you grabbed whatever you could to help get those wounded people into the tent. I was wondering why those people were on that gurney and not me. You know, we had the same identical training. We were wearing the same identical uniforms. We had the same weapons. We had the same everything.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, okay, why is it them and not me? And it was just kind of becoming a survival's guilt type thing. So that's when I had been diagnosed. It had set in so deeply to where if I go to a restaurant, I have to sit in a corner so that I can monitor the entire restaurant the whole time. I have a hard time going any place unless I take my service dog with me. He's been trained to wake me up at nighttime when he determines that I'm having nightmares. Some of the nightmares are in my nightmares when I'm grabbing that gurney, I'm looking down and it's me laying on that gurney, because a lieutenant and I had gotten into a firefight with a couple of individuals, and you know, we had been able to take them out, but it's like you have that, you know, did I take them out? Did the lieutenant take them out? You don't know, because, you know, even though that's what you're trained to do, you know, all those years later, it sets in that you know, you took another person's life. So there's times where, and this is going to seem petty, there's times that I have a hard time going in convenience stores just because of the accent of the individual. Or I was a department manager for several years in my hometown in a major hospital. I was kind of forced to retire because that hospital was only a few miles from the military installation I retired from. And there would be military people come in that had been in car accidents or something, and I would have issues when I would see them take them out of the ambulance. If they were still in uniform, it would give me those flashbacks and stuff back. So, you know, because of my PTSD and stuff, they had basically come out and just said that I wasn't going to be able to work anymore. Now
Wow.
businesses cannot refuse you from being hired. So they'll give you different reasons on why they're not going to hire you, but they just can't come out and say, we're not going to hire you because of your PTSD.
Which is not, it's something that's illegal to do, I'm assuming,
Pardon?
right? Is it illegal for a business to say, I can't hire you because you have PTSD?
Right, that's illegal, because in order for them to hire you, they have to give you extra breaks because of your service animal. They have to give you special places to be able to take your service animal out to go to the bathroom and everything else. So they'll just come up with, well, we found somebody else, or we're looking a different direction. They won't come out and say, we're not going to hire you because you have PTSD. Sorry
Wow,
if the
that's
phone's
crazy.
shaking.
No, you're good.
So that's when they just kind of put me on my disability and all that other stuff.
Oh, wow. Well, Rock, man, I want to tell you, thank you for your service. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
I think what you went through, what you are currently going through, is something that you did for our country. You did it for me. You did it for people like us. We could be free. We could have freedom of speech. So I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you,
And I
sir.
just want to let you know that if you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. You can count on me. You want to have a conversation. I'm a good conversationalist. I love to talk to people. I have a good ear, so I love to hear people. So hearing your story, man, is really remarkable, brother. And you know,
Thank you.
I really think you're courageous, you're strong, and to go through something like that, it's really traumatic. And just to have to live your life with PTSD, it's not easy. I'm assuming you have a lot of coping mechanisms for this PT, and I see that you like to attend car shows as well, right?
Yes.
Is that something where you do to bring awareness to your PTSD, or is that something to help you cope with your PTSD?
It helps me do both. I have a 99 Corvette that I have completely set up for PTSD awareness in veterans. Since I do about 40 car shows a year from mid-February to mid-December, just about every weekend. And what I do is I kind of use that as a self-therapy. And then at the same time, I'll give out wristbands that talk about PTSD. I'll give out brochures. I'll give out pamphlets. I have a PTSD awareness TikTok page so that the business cards have that information on them. And if I can just reach one individual at those car shows that may have a relative that went off to a conflict and came back and they're not acting the same, or if the individual's got something going on and they just need an individual to talk to that has went through the same thing as them, or they just want some information or whatever the case may be, if I just reach out to one person during that car show for that time frame, then I feel I've done that car show and reached the purpose that I went to that car show for. You know, I don't worry about the awards. If I get an award, fine. If I don't, fine. That's not what I went to the car show for. My goal is, because I've had mothers come up and start talking about an individual that may have taken their own life because of PTSD when they come home, or mothers and fathers that will come up and talk about, you know, their son or daughter went off to war and they come back and they're just not the same. So they'll take their cards, my card. I've had individuals that I've met through my car shows that them and I have become friends because we have that mutual bond now because of what's going on. And I'll get calls at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning where an individual will say, you know, Rock, I'm at my last leg here. I don't know what to do. So, you know, I'll get up and I'll talk to them and we'll walk through it and we'll talk about it and just so they can, you know, get get it off their chest. And, you know, sometimes if you got PTSD, you don't want somebody, you just want somebody to listen. You're not necessarily wanting somebody to give you advice or anything. You just want somebody to listen. And at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Wow, man, you're a great person to do that, man.
Thank
To
you.
wake up and speak to somebody, and it's because you understand what they're going through. You know, you understand what it feels like to have PTSD, and in my opinion, it's really dope that you attend these shows and you interact with people who has it. At those car shows, is it the place where you met Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, we met at a car show in February of 21. Because we also lived in the same town called Belton.
Okay.
And we met at a car show there. And, you know, at the car show, he comes off very nice, very polite. And so we just kind of struck up a conversation. Like I said, we lived in the same town. So we had done the car show together. And then come to find out, you know, we had done 3 or 4 car shows together. We kind of struck up a little bit of a friendship. You know,
Sorry to interrupt. When you say you guys did car shows together, these are events that you hosted or events that you attended?
No, there's events that I attended. It takes a lot to put on a car show.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
I mean, the car club that I'm in, we put them on. It takes a lot. It's about a year's planning to put on for each one. So it's car shows that we would attend. You know, we would go out and do meals together, or we would eat at the food trucks there. And I went to 2 of Junior's birthday parties. I would take clothes over to him and Junior's house and donate some clothes and stuff like that. So, you know, for a year or so, a year and a half, maybe we had struck up a friendship, and then it just kind of went bad after a while. The individual you see at car shows is not the individual you see on social media.
So it's somebody that pretty much puts up a front.
Yes.
Wow. Where do you think it went wrong? Where did things start to go, like, you know, south, where you realize, like, all right, I need to take a step back from this?
Like I said, him and I had struck up that friendship. In fact, he had done a couple of TikTok videos with me talking about my I was a mod for him on TikTok for a little, I don't know, a couple of months or so. When he had moved to his house in Rogers, people had started talking about a lock that he had put on Junior's bedroom door on the outside. And I'm ashamed to admit it, that I had defended him, because at first I didn't see the lock. So I was defending him. I'm ashamed to admit that. But then one day, another creator named Generic had posted pictures of that lock on that door on his page. And then that's when I had come to see what the real Marty was like, because I started checking out the posts that Generic had on his page. I started checking out the posts that an individual named Hugador had posted on his page. So, at that point, I kind of saw the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde version of Marty Mendoza.
What is that that you just said right now? What does that mean,
How
Doctor?
on Facebook and at car shows, you see the nice, polite, the well-speaking, the well-mannered version of Marty Mendoza. But then when you when you see him on social media like TikTok, you see the vulgar language that he spews out about women and children and the way he downgrades them and the vulgar and disgusting stuff that he says and that kind of stuff. The Jekyll and Hyde, how he's one way in public, but then on social media, you see the true him.
Yeah.
And that's when I just decided that it's time for me to step away because I don't want to be associated with an individual like that.
Is that a conversation that you had with him too on why you decided to not want to, be affiliated with him or seen with him?
No, I just cut it. I just cut and walked away. So we went back and forth. And I think the reason that him and I went back and forth so hard was because, he's always saying, people don't know me. You can't walk in my shoes. Nobody knows me personally. Well, he can't say that about me. I know him personally. I've been to the places that he's lived in. I have, like he likes to say, I have broken bread with him. I have been to Junior's birthday parties. He has made TikTok videos and he made a post on his Facebook page calling me family and talking about how he's met my family and that we're all family. He's made all those comments. So he kind of came at me harder than everyone else. And then he's turned around and made those threats about my family. In March of last year, he sent me a text message saying that because of my PTSD, it would be better off for my family if I were to not be on this planet anymore, if I were to unalive myself. And then in October of last year, he sends a video on TikTok saying that he was going to bring friends down to my house and physically assault me. And then they were going to force me to watch as him and friends assaulted sexually my wife and my 2 teenage daughters. That's the kind of individual Marty Mendoza is. But that's not the person you'll see at car shows. But that's the person that there is there.
Did you talk to authorities about this?
Yes, I've talked to them. I tried filing reports with them. In fact, I filed reports with them, but they will never. They don't ever do anything about it.
That's crazy.
In October of last year, I went to see him after a car show. He's constantly saying, "Come see me, we'll talk." I showed up to his house. I said, "You're always saying you want to talk." I said something to the fact that if you want to talk, I'm here. As soon as he got out of his car, the very first thing he did was called 911. Now, keep in mind, I'm not on his property at all. I'm yelling from the street. He calls 911. The first thing he does is says I'm there threatening him. He claims that I have a weapon that I'm there threatening him. But in the meantime, his neighbor is standing right there watching all of it. I have his neighbor to agree that I'm not making any threatening comments, and his neighbor agrees that I'm not carrying any kind of a weapon. But that's the first thing Mendoza mentions out of his mouth is that I'm carrying a weapon and I'm threatening him.
Wow.
But yet the police don't make him, the police, when I tried to ask them about it, they won't charge him with filing a false police report, but they wouldn't give me a reason why. I can't charge him with filing a false police report. The police department has to, but they didn't do it.
Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. You mentioned earlier Generic and Jugador, and I just want to take the time to give them a shout out to Grape as well, to a lot of OVO, to a lot of awesome people, which I've been talking to several of you guys, and I said instead of doing one episode of speaking about truths of Mr. Mendoza, I figured I'd do multiple episodes with people because there's a lot of people, and having you on here, getting to know you, getting to hear your story, it's sad how that friendship ended because of him and because of his actions. And I do plan on bringing this situation to light using my podcast. So that's the reason why, not the only reason why I wanted you on. When I heard that you were a vet, I figured it would be an awesome conversation, and to see these car shows is pretty awesome. But you've taken a step back from pretty much, I don't know how I want to say this, bashing Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm really happy you did that, brother, because it could be stressful dealing with
Yes,
him.
I've seen him. I saw a movie that was called Left Behind. It's a Christian movie, and it
With
talks
Nicolas Cage.
about. It talks. Have you seen it?
Yeah, yeah,
And that movie really got me to thinking. With this stuff that I have going on back and forth with Marty, I don't want to be one of those people that are left behind when Jesus comes back.
amen, amen.
So I realized that I got to worry about my salvation. I got to worry about my family. As the head of the household, I'm responsible for their salvation to a point. So the only way I can do that is if I let the stuff go on between me and Marty, I got to let it go. He's got to answer to God for telling me to
Yeah.
unalive myself. He's got to answer to God for what he said he was going to do to my wife and daughters. I can't worry about that. All me worrying about that is ruining my salvation.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
Yeah.
be left behind. So
Yeah,
I
and
have to
doing
let that go.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. And you causing damage to yourself. When you hold grudges, and you being a bigger man, stepping away for your health is the best thing to do.
Right. And I feel better, I don't have that burden. I don't have that. It had almost became a hatred that I was carrying around all the time. I was nitpicking all of his little videos to see what I could do a story time on and how I could go at him and everything else. And I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it anymore. Now I do my stupid fun facts videos. And those are a lot more fun to watch and to do and everything else. I mean, they're
I
stupid.
like
I
those
understand.
videos.
They're stupid. They're stupid little things, but I have fun doing them.
Yeah,
People may like them, people may not, but they're a lot more fun. They're a lot less stressful.
yeah, I feel you. No, when you do those fun facts, they're to me, I like it.
I enjoy doing them. They're a lot
Oh, you
less
see,
stressful.
that's even better, man, when you enjoy doing something that you like. At this podcast, I've had it for a year now. I haven't dropped any episodes because I wanted to grow my presence over at TikTok, and I wanted Mr. Mendoza on my podcast until I did my research like he told me to do, and I discovered some truths about him that I wasn't really too happy with, and I felt like having him on the podcast wasn't going to do my podcast any good. I felt like
Yes,
I
sir.
wouldn't have had anything educational for my audience from him.
Yes, sir.
And I felt like if I would have asked him tough questions, he probably would have just not even answered them and, hey, move on to the next question.
Yes, sir. Or he would have just left.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm glad though. I'm glad he didn't. After I did my research, I told him nicely that I declined the invitation. He got kind of mad, and he's been bashing me on TikTok ever since, calling me a wannabe podcaster with 0 followers. And to me, everybody's got to start somewhere when it comes to your podcast, to your shows, to your channel, your TikTok. Everybody starts at 0, just like he's.
Yes, sir.
And he brags constantly about having 500,000 followers, but then again, he's starting to lose followers because people are starting to get to know the person that he is, just like you got to know the real Marty Mendoza. I have other people as well who I'm going to bring on the podcast. I do want to spend the first few minutes on talking about that person because I feel like everybody has an interesting story. Whether you think you don't, you can always learn from somebody.
Right.
The only thing I learned from Mr. Mendoza, to be completely honest with you, is the type of person that I do not want to be. That's the only thing I learned from him. And I wish him the best. God bless him. I'm going to take a step back from creating videos of him and releasing them. But I will say that I will have individuals who were attacked verbally, like you were by Marty, and bring them on the podcast. And like I said, just shed light on who this person is,
Right.
But I'm happy for you, brother. I'm happy that you
Thank you, brother.
decided
I appreciate it.
that you're able to take a step back, able to breathe and just focus on yourself and your health, which is the most important thing. And like I said earlier, if you ever need somebody to talk to, my man, I'm gonna shoot you my phone number. Yo, reach out, let's talk,
Okay.
And
I appreciate
I'll
it.
definitely love to touch base with you again when in the future have you on the podcast as well.
Oh, I enjoy it. Thank you. I'm having fun. I can tell you, you are officially my first ever podcast.
Yes. Yes.
You are
Appreciate that. Thank you,
I
brother.
am no longer a podcast virgin.
There you go. I popped that cherry.
That's right. I have
I don't
lost
want to
my
take up.
podcast virginity.
Man, thank you for coming on and having a conversation with me. I wish you the very best in life. Just know that I'll be your friend, and vice versa. You have a friendship
Thank you,
with me,
brother.
is what I want to say. So,
Thank
but
you.
yeah, brother, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you, my man, for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you for your service. I'm going to keep you in my prayers, and you keep, doing what you're doing, brother. And I'd love to
Thank
have
you.
you again on the podcast so we can touch base in the future and see what you've been up to,
Anytime.
man.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, my people, that was another episode with my man, Uncle Rock. Thank you for tuning in on Conversations with Los podcast. And we are out. My man, Rock,
Wait.
do you want to say something before we head out?
I got one more thing to say.
Say it.
See ya.
You gotta take the hits and bruises as you walk amongst the jungle. The breakdown, they gon' break you as long as you never stumble.